Good day, Ms. Lim. Our group will be presenting on corporate tax planning for ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd. This is our group members.
This case study examines the effectiveness of tax planning in enhancing tax compliance at ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd, a food manufacturing company operating in Malaysia. The main objective of this study is to identify key tax issues faced by the company, particularly weaknesses in understanding tax incentive, capital allowance, and group relief, and to propose appropriate tax planning strategies in compliance with the Income Tax Act 1967. This study is primarily based on secondary data, such as tax legislation, guidelines, and scholarly sources. Conceptual tax computations are used to demonstrate how tax planning can be applied in practice. The finding shows that effective tax planning allows ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd to reduce tax liability, improve cash flow, and strengthen tax compliance. Overall, the study highlights that proper tax planning is essential for Malaysian companies to optimize tax benefits while remaining compliant with tax laws.
Tax planning is an essential part of financial management for Malaysian companies, as it allows businesses to legally minimize tax liabilities while remaining compliant. With increased IRBN enforcement, wider audit coverage, and the introduction of e-invoicing, companies face greater pressure to manage their tax matter accurately. This is particularly relevant for food manufacturing companies which operate in a highly regulated and capital-intensive environment, requiring continuous investment in machinery and compliance systems. Despite the availability of tax incentive, capital allowance, or growth relief, many companies fail to fully utilize these mechanisms. Therefore, this study examines ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd to demonstrate structured tax planning in practice. ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd is a Malaysian food manufacturer established in 2019 and headquartered in Penang. The company produces packaged food products such as ready-to-eat snacks, beverage, sauce, and frozen convenient meals for the domestic market. It employs approximately 250 employees with annual revenue of about 52 million ringgit Malaysia. The company operates a centralized production facility equipped with industrial cooking, sterilizations, and automated packaging system. These operations are capital intensive and essential to ensure efficiency, product quality, and compliance with food safety and halal requirements under the Food Act 1983 and related regulations. From a tax perspective, continuous investment in plant and machinery makes the company eligible for capital allowance and relevant tax incentive, while the establishment of a subsidiary in 2022 brought potential group relief opportunities but is subject to Malaysian tax legislations.
I am Ng Shinyan. The company invests heavily in advanced machinery but has not fully utilized available tax incentive. This is more serious due to rapid equipment damage and frequent reinvestment in the food manufacturing industry. The key issues are limited tax knowledge, challenges from high capital expenditure, and complex documentation and compliance requirements.
I'm Bae Hui Min. This report identifies serious weaknesses in ZenithFood Manufacturing's capital allowance management. The company fails to fully utilize capital allowance, resulting in an unnecessary tax overpayment and increased LHT and tax audit risks. Firstly, many qualifying assets are not claimed because the company focuses only on large machinery, while some assets such as welding skills and safety equipment are ignored. Secondly, capital allowance calculations are often incorrect due to poor linkage between the asset register and tax computation, leading to wrong rates and values being used. Finally, balancing allowance are not recognized when assets are disposed of, causing further loss of tax deduction and creating heightened compliance risks.
Group relief under the Income Tax Act 1967 can only be granted when all the statutory eligible conditions are satisfied. In this case, ZenithFood Manufacturing and its subsidiary ZenithPack meet all the key thresholds. They were related through the relevant year of assessments and period 12 months conforming, sustain the ownership and Zenith's economy integrations. ZenithFood hold 100% of Zenith's paid issue share capital, exceeding the minimum percent where is 70% shareholdings requirement. Both companies also have payout capital above 2.5 million, ensuring a strong financial substance.
This study adopts a conceptual case study methodology, applying Malaysian tax legislations and guidelines to a realistic corporate business scenario without using primarily data. The analysis relied on secondary sources, including the Income Tax Act 1967, IRBN public rulings, and relevant government guidelines. The methodology involves identifying key tax issues faced by ZenithFood, interpreting statutory provisions, and evaluating how tax incentive, capital allowance, or group relief can be strategically applied. The findings are then used to develop practical tax planning recommendations.
Three key incentives are particularly relevant. First is the reinvestment allowance. We can claim a 60% allowance on new equipment. This offsets up to 70% of our statutory income, essentially subsidizing our new machinery and support continuous reinvestment in production equipment. The second incentive is the automation capital allowance. By automating our production line, we are entitled to a 200% tax incentive, which provides an immediate boost to cash flow. Finally, the double deduction for halal certification. We can deduct twice the cost of maintaining our halal status and support market credibility.
This forensic review highlights major weaknesses in ZenithFood Manufacturing's capital allowance management, which has resulted in significant tax inefficiency and compliance risks. Firstly, the company only claims capital allowance on large machinery and ignores some qualifying assets. In YA 2024, assets such as weighing scales and safety equipment costing 68,000 ringgit were not claimed, resulting in missed capital allowance of 23,120 ringgit. This directly increased taxable income and caused unnecessary tax payments. Secondly, a new packaging machine costing 4 million ringgit was incorrectly treated, while the initial allowance of 20% and annual allowance of 14% should both be calculated on the qualifying expenditure. The past calculation wrongly applied the annual allowance on residual expenditure. The correct total deduction in YA 2024 should be 1.36 million ringgit, which is important for cash flow optimization. Finally, the company failed to claim a balancing allowance of 6,000 ringgit when an asset was disposed of, leading to additional unnecessary tax costs of the 1,440 ringgit. Overall, this issue shows poor capital allowance control and exposed the company to higher tax and LHDN tax audit risks.
Looking at practical applications for year assessment 2026, ZenithFood has fully owned ZenithPack since 2022, reflecting a real operations integrations rather than temporary restructuring. This full equity interest ensure that any losses absorbed reflect real financial expo. With adequate capitalizations, the group can confidently transfer the losses, minimize the compliance risk, and support both tax planning and audit defeasibility. Based on ZenithPack projected losses of 800k, ZenithFood can only grant 70% under the group relief, capped at 560k. This reduced the taxable income from 50 million to 49.44 million, yet an estimated tax saving of 134,400. The company also have the options to grant the group relief instead of certain tax incentive, offering the flexibility while remaining fully compliant with Section 44A.
Now I would like to discuss about the 3 key incentives. First, reinvestment allowance provides a tax saving of 720,000 ringgit on a 5 million investment. It offers a long-term benefit as the allowance is available for up to 15 years. However, strict compliance is required, as the investment must be for expansion, modernization, diversification, or automation and does not apply to routine maintenance. Second, the automation capital allowance provides the largest immediate benefit. The 5 million investment results in tax saving of nearly 2 million. However, RA and SCA are mutually exclusive, so only one of them can be chosen as tax incentive. Finally, the halal double deduction set for a small 12,000 ringgit, but it is important for our brand. We just need to make sure we pay official bodies to follow the rules.
Analysis shows that ZenithFood capital allowance issue are not isolated errors but systemic weaknesses in tax governance. The company focused only on large machinery and failed to recognize some qualifying assets, resulting in unclaimed capital allowance of 23,120 ringgit and unnecessary tax overpayment. There is also a clear knowledge gap where annual allowance are wrongly calculated on residual expenditure instead of qualifying expenditure, leading to underclaiming and false compliance. In addition, poor coordination between asset management and tax reporting caused the company to miss a balancing allowance upon disposal, creating tax audit risks. Overall, these weaknesses lead to continuous cash flow leakage, higher tax exposure, and increased risks during an LHDN audit.
From an integrated tax planning perspective, 3 key points stand out. First is the long-term ownership and continuity ensure the claims are defeasible. The second is economy substance and risk alignments confirm that the losses are genuine, providing the real tax benefit. Third is the timing, capital adequacy, and sustainability highlight the importance of forward planning and proper documentations. In short, group relief is a strategy supportive tool for the tax efficiency, but is not a substitute for sound business management.
Next, I will talk about recommendations for ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd. For tax planning strategies, ZenithFood should adopt a more structured approach by engaging tax professionals. This allows the company to optimize tax incentives such as reinvestment allowance, automation capital allowance, and double deduction for halal certification. The company should also evaluate the most suitable tax claiming approach, including group relief where applicable, while ensuring proper documentation to support all tax claims. In terms of risk mitigation, the company should strengthen internal controls over tax reporting, particularly for capital investments. Qualifying assets should be properly identified, and capital allowance should be recognized on a timely basis. Periodic tax reviews by professionals can further ensure compliance with the Income Tax Act 1967 and IRBM requirements. Finally, for improvement in policy and practice, ZenithFood should establish formal tax standard operating procedures, which is SOPs, and obtain continuous guidance from tax experts. Regular tax training for finance staff will enhance their ability to make accurate and consistent tax decisions, reducing compliance risks in the long run. In conclusion, this study demonstrates the significant role of tax planning in ensuring tax compliance and achieving tax efficiency, particularly within the food manufacturing industry. The finding revealed that ZenithFood Manufacturing Sdn Bhd faced higher tax liability, mainly due to limited understanding of tax regulations and underutilization of available incentive. With appropriate tax planning, the company is able to reduce its tax burden, improve cash flow, and support reinvestment activities. This study contributes to practice by illustrating how effective tax planning can minimize non-compliance risks and maximize tax benefits for Malaysian companies. However, the study is limited by its reliance on secondary data and conceptual tax computations rather than actual tax filings. Future research may focus on real-world company data, the impact of digital tax systems such as e-invoicing, and the effectiveness of green tax incentive in promoting sustainability.
Thank you for watching.